Hey, it was Sunday and I had a little extra money, so I did a rare thing, which is to buy the New York Times. I look at the New York Times the way I look at Pravda. It's a cultural artifact, and I don't mean culture in a good way. Just want to just go over a few things here. So I love this, right? This is arts and leisure. So we have all these great artists, musicians, painters, uh, dancers doing all this great stuff. So what do? They devote an entire page to what? The phenomenon of people watching streaming shows that they don't like. I mean, I get that this is very cost effective for them. They don't have to do any work. They just put a picture up here and waste an entire bit of ink. So then you go to the actual article. I can find it. Okay, and they devote an entire page to this. Again, artists, painters, dancers, composers, musicians, people making a positive contribution to society. And what does the New York Times do? They blow their full head, their front page of their arts and leisure section, and a full page of text on nothing. Now, it gets worse. So here we are. I mean, it would be an insult to line a bird cage with this to the birds, right? That would be an insult to the birds. So here's their big opinion thing, right? Well, again, this is great because you don't have to hire a writer. Just buy clip art, and now you're a journalist. So they did an in-depth thing. They talked to 15 young people who are not real happy about uh, Kamala Harris. Why should they be? They have the rest of their lives in front of them, and they're looking at a shit show run by a clown. So maybe they're concerned. So anyway, looks like they did a lot of in-depth work, okay? But of course, nobody reads everything. You just read the big things. So what's the big thing that jumps out? This is their summary of this conversation with 15, is it 15 thoughtful young people about what the heck's going on in our country. What do you care about the most? We care about being able to afford to have a family. Do we care about being able to afford to have a home? Do we care about having some kind of a career and making some kind of money? They kids did. They care about that. They talked about it. But what did the editorial hand at the New York Times put as the most important issue that all young people care about? Relations with Israel. Relations with Israel. And then inflation, yeah. By the way, inflation means you're poorer because most people work on a salary. So your salary doesn't go up. And if prices go up, you are now poorer. They always talk about standard of living. Your standard of living is lower. You know, for us older people who've already got our stuff, I don't need to buy furniture again. I don't need to start a new career. It's not great, not the end of the world. But when you're at the beginning of the journey, you got to do all this stuff. What else do they care about? Oh, healthcare. But that's only third. What else do they care about? Being able to get educated, right? When you're young, you need to get an education. You need training. But the most important thing to the New York Times editorial people, oh, it's the relationship with Israel. Now, think about this. Right now, the New York Times is shilling for Harris. Previously, they were shilling for Biden. Remember the sharpest man that ever occupied the White House? Now we've got whatever her name is, Harris. She's the best thing that ever happened. She's amazing. There's never been anything like her. We've never seen anything like this. This the spectacularity of this person. They're all in. Remember how millions of people were in the streets trying to stop that atrocity? What was the New York Times doing? Shilling for war. Who was their lead cheerleader? Judith Miller. Did she lie? Yes. Did she mislead? Yes. Did she have any consequences at all for that lying or misleading? Not at all. She's still a superstar. So sometimes they back the Democrats, sometimes they back the Republicans. What's consistent? The best interest of the United States of America? Absolutely not. Iraq, it's pretty clear because we now know. Remember, who's that guy? The guy with the island, Jeffrey Epstein. And then the guy that funded him, well, that would be Les Wexler, right? He somehow slithered out of all this. He actually bought the mansion in Manhattan, which apparently may not still be, but was the most expensive private residence in the entire island of Manhattan. I don't know if you've ever been to Manhattan, but to be number one on that list, that's insane. That's intense. And how much did Jeffrey Epstein pay for that house that was all renovated, including closed circuit TV in every room with a control room to watch all the people all at once? Jeffrey Epstein apparently paid $1 to Les Wexner. Now, what do we know about Les Wexner? Well, we've had it on Brasscheck videos. He helped pay the propaganda and the PR for the Iraq War. Now, why would a crazed Zionist, right? We're not talking about Jewish people here. We're talking about Zionists. We have Christian Zionists. We have atheist Zionists. Okay. Why would a crazed Zionist spend money to get the United States into the Iraq War? Well, because it benefited the crazed Zionists who run Israel, right? And we're not talking about Jews. We're talking about Zionists. Okay. So the New York Times is clear about one thing. You don't matter. But the Zionist agenda, whatever it is, if it's invade Iraq, if it's put Kamala Harris in the White House, whatever it is, that's what they're down with. I mean, this just shows it. I mean, this is just absurd. How many young people in America are waking up in the middle of the night worried about the U.S. relationship with Israel? I mean, that's just insane. And yet, this is the Sunday paper, New York Times. This is their opinion section. This was their big extravaganza interviewing young people about their very legitimate concerns about the direction our country's on. And this is what they highlighted and pulled out. How do you like that? Okay, New York Times, consistent, consistent liars, consistent crooks, consistent betrayers of the United States of America. I mean, you gotta admire their consistency.